Let me ask you something. They'll hand you a textbook, give you a locker, a bell schedule, and a GPA and tell you that's education. That's how you get ahead. They'll say, do your homework, study hard, follow the rules. And if you do that, if you color inside the lines, you'll make it, right? But what they don't tell you is that real life doesn't come with a syllabus. You could graduate with honors and still feel lost in the world. You could pass every test and still fail to find purpose. You could walk across that stage, diploma in hand, and still not know what to do the first time life punches you in the mouth. Because while they were teaching you how to calculate the circumference of a circle, they weren't showing you how to handle being overlooked. While they were grading your grammar, they weren't preparing you for the silence that follows rejection. They didn't talk about the weight of disappointment, the sting of comparison, the long nights when your own mind turns against you. See, there's a whole other education happening outside those classroom walls, the kind you can't measure in multiple choice. It's the lesson in how to deal with being passed over, how to stay calm when life feels chaotic, how to believe in yourself when no one else does. And that lesson, it ain't on the final exam. I'm not knocking school education matters, discipline matters, but don't get it twisted. Information is not transformation. You can have all the right answers and still feel empty inside. You can recite historical facts and still not know how to face your own future. So here's the truth. The system was never designed to teach you the most important thing, how to be whole when life is broken. How to stand tall in the middle of confusion, how to keep going when the plan falls apart. That's the gap no classroom filled for me. They gave me equations, but not endurance. They gave me books, but not belief. They gave me facts, but not faith. So the illusion is this, that school teaches you all you need to know. But I'm here to tell you the most powerful skill you'll ever need. The one that determines whether you stay down or get back up. You won't find that in a textbook. You gotta learn that from life. You gotta feel it, live it, bleed through it, and still stand up stronger than before. That's the lesson nobody teaches, but everybody needs. You ever notice how they teach you to read a novel, but not how to read yourself? They'll break down Shakespeare line by line, but won't show you how to break down a moment of pain without letting it break you. They'll teach you how to analyze a poem, but not how to analyze your own emotions when the pressure's on and your heart is heavy. Let me tell you something real. The one thing school never taught, the one thing that separates people who get stuck from people who rise, is emotional resilience. I'm talking about that inner strength, that thing inside you that doesn't crumble when the plan falls apart. The ability to keep breathing when everything in you wants to quit. The ability to stay soft without becoming weak, to stay open without becoming naive. See, they never taught us how to sit in pain without running from it. They didn't show us how to feel what we feel and still move forward. No class on how to deal with fear. No subject on grief. No teacher to help you carry the weight of disappointment or shame. Just silence. Just focus on your grades. But life isn't quiet like a classroom. Life shouts. It pushes. It tests you without warning. And when that happens, when it's not a pop quiz, but a punch to the gut, emotional resilience is what decides whether you fold or fight. Because the truth is, you can't logic your way through heartbreak. You can't rationalize your way out of loss. You can't intellectualize every storm. Sometimes all you've got is the breath in your chest and the choice to keep going. Resilience isn't about being tough all the time, no. It's not about putting on a mask or pretending you're not hurting. It's about knowing that you can be hurting and still move with purpose. That you can feel lost and still keep walking. That even when the tears come and the voice in your head says you're not enough, you have the power to answer back. It's that moment when the job falls through and you rise up anyway. It's when the love you gave wasn't returned and you keep your heart open. It's when the world tells you no and you say, watch me. You weren't taught that, were you? Me neither, but that's the skill, that's the one. Emotional resilience. The power to feel everything and not let it consume you, to experience the pain without becoming the pain, to bend without breaking, to fall but not fall apart. They didn't give you that in school, but you can give it to yourself now. Every time you get up, every time you breathe through it, Every time you keep going, you're building it, and once you have it, ain't no test in this world that can measure your strength. I was 21, young, ambitious, full of fire and fear, thought I was ready to take on the world, thought I had something special, and maybe I did, but the world didn't seem to see it yet. I walked into that audition with my best suit, shoes I couldn't afford, and a dream bigger than the room. Gave it everything I had, every line, every breath, every ounce of soul I could pour into those 3 minutes. And when it was over, nothing. They didn't even look up, didn't say thank you, didn't say next, just silence. And let me tell you, silence can be the loudest kind of rejection. I walked out of that building, back out into the city, and sat on a cracked concrete step. New York moving around me like a movie I wasn't cast in. And I remember looking at my hands as if they were supposed to be holding something, a roll, a phone call, some kind of sign that I was on the right path. But they were just empty. I sat there and thought, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not enough. And right then in the middle of that spiral, this older man, maybe 70s, walks by, doesn't even slow down, just says with this gravel in his voice, "Fall forward, son." That's all he said, didn't know me. Didn't stop, didn't explain, just fall forward. And I've carried that ever since. Because life is gonna knock you down. That's not a possibility, that's a guarantee. The question isn't if you fall, it's how you fall. Whether you fall backward into fear or forward into growth. Whether you let the pain define you or refine you. See that breakdown I had on that concrete step? That was the beginning of my breakthrough. I didn't know it at the time. All I knew was that it hurt, that I felt invisible. But something shifted. I got back up, auditioned again, failed again, auditioned again, and each time I got a little better, not because it got easier, but because I got stronger. It's not the rejection that defines you, it's what you do after. You don't grow when it's easy. You grow when it's hard, when you have to decide whether the world's no is louder than your own yes, when you have to bet on yourself in the dark. That moment sitting alone with failure, that was the real classroom, that was the real degree, and that one line from a stranger, "Fall forward," that became the compass. So when you fall, and you will, don't fall back into comfort. Don't fall back into doubt, fall forward into courage, into your calling, into your becoming, because some of the best parts of who you are, you only meet in the middle of the fall. Life doesn't come with instructions. No syllabus, no study guide, no open book tests, just moments, some beautiful, some brutal, all of them trying to teach you something. But let me tell you, life is not a gentle teacher. She don't raise her hand and ask if you're ready. She just shows up, loud, uninvited, and sometimes cruel. There were days I thought I had it all figured out. Days I walked into a room thinking, this is it, this is my moment. And then, bam, life hit me with a lesson I didn't ask for. I've learned more from doors that closed in my face than ones that opened. You can read about perseverance in a book, sure, but you feel it when you're staring at a bill you can't pay, when your phone's not ringing, when you give your best, your absolute best, and it still ain't enough for them to say yes. That's when the real test begins. See, school taught you how to raise your hand. Life teaches you how to raise your head. When people doubt you, when friends disappear, when you feel like you're walking uphill, barefoot in the rain, with no end in sight, and still you walk. That's class in session. No bell, no recess, no substitute teacher. Just you and the storm. I remember a stretch when nothing was going right. My confidence was hanging on by a thread. Everything I touched seemed to slip through my fingers, and the worst part, I couldn't tell anybody. Because on the outside, I was supposed to be fine. But life has a way of stripping you down to the truth. And in those moments, the quiet ones, the painful ones, you come face to face with who you really are. Not the version people see, the real one, the one that's tired, the one that doubts, the one that's still standing. You learn, not because you want to, but because you have to. You learn to let go of what you can't control. You learn to speak kindly to yourself when no one else does. You learn that sometimes survival is success, And you realize those lessons, the ones life forces on you, they're the ones that stick. Because you earned them. You paid for them with your pain, with your sweat, with your sleepless nights and silent prayers. People think growth is always this pretty thing. They think it's light and clarity and peace. But growth. Real growth, it's messy, it's dark, it's lonely. It's looking in the mirror and choosing not to give up again and again even when no one's watching. So while school gave you the grades, life gives you the grit. And grit, that's what'll carry you through the chapters you never studied for. That's what teaches you to keep writing your story, even when the plot twists. Because the truth is, the hardest lessons, the ones that cut deep, they become the strongest parts of who you are. So now you know. Now you know that school gave you a piece of the puzzle, but not the whole picture. Now you know that the lessons that shape you the most don't come with grades or gold stars, they come wrapped in pain, in silence, in the moments nobody claps for. But here's the beautiful part, now that you know, you can't no. That means the next move is yours. You don't need a permission slip to grow. You don't need a degree to develop discipline. You don't need applause to build character. The moment you decide to stop waiting for the world to validate you, that's when class really begins. You can start right now, right here, with what you've got. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to face your fears, willing to fail and still move forward, willing to look at your reflection and say, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm showing up anyway. That's what courage looks like. It's not loud, it's not always polished. Sometimes it's just quiet consistency, choosing to get up again and again and again, even with a bruised heart, even with doubts in your mind, even when nobody's cheering. Especially then, because this world, it'll try to tell you who you're supposed to be. It'll hand you labels, expectations, limitations, but you've got something stronger. You've got choice, you've got will. You've got a fire that school couldn't teach and life couldn't take away. So what now? Now you build your resilience like a muscle. You train your mind to serve you, not sabotage you. You stop waiting for the storm to pass and start learning how to dance in the rain. You stop asking why me and start saying try me. You start leading your own education, your own evolution, because emotional resilience, that fire, that fuel, it's not given, it's forged through struggle, through stillness, through rising after the fall, and every single day you keep going. That's you sharpening the skills school never taught. That's you becoming the kind of person who can walk through fire and still come out with purpose in their eyes and strength in their step. You don't need to wait for someone to teach you anymore. The teacher's already here. It's the life you're living, the pain you've survived, the dream you're still holding. That's your lesson, that's your power. And your next chapter, it doesn't start when it's easy. It starts now, right here, in the middle of the unknown, in the middle of your fear, in the middle of your grind, because greatness is not about knowing everything. It's about refusing to quit when you know nothing at all, but you still believe in something, and if you're breathing, if you're still standing, that means your class ain't over yet, so stand tall. Speak loud and fall forward always. So now I leave you with this. School gave you structure, life gave you struggle, but the greatest teacher you'll ever have is you. The resilience you build, the grit you grow, the fire you feed, that's yours. Nobody can hand it to you, nobody can take it from you, and every failure, every heartbreak, every time you fell and chose to rise, that became your curriculum. And no, there wasn't a classroom, there wasn't a chalkboard or a final exam. But make no mistake, you've been learning every single day, and now the real question is, what will you do with what you know now? Will you keep waiting for someone to open a door, or will you build one with your bare hands? Will you let the past define you, or will you use it to refine you? Will you fall back, or will you fall forward? See, the world doesn't need more people who memorized all the answers. It needs more people who can feel the fire and keep walking anyway. It needs people like you, bruised, not broken, shaken, not silenced, learning, growing, rising. So whatever you're facing, remember this: you were never meant to be ordinary. You were built to bend, not break. You were made to rise, to lead, to speak, to shine, not after the struggle, but through it. Because when life teaches the lesson school never did, you don't just graduate, you transform. Now go write your next chapter. The world is waiting.